Hey, sure. Yeah, I'd like to return to a previous topic, the election. I was making dinner at the time and couldn't chime in, but I'd like to explore a topic that comes from like a game theoretical standpoint, and that is
Hmm.
50% of population lost a popular federal right that they had collectively for 50 plus years. It's now a state's right, whatever. Okay. Many states have allowed it or restricted it, whatever, at the state level in some way. Red states have restored it at some really unexpected levels, like Kansas and Kentucky passing it at insane levels. And as it turns
Are you
out,
talking about abortion?
just wait, as it turns out,
Okay.
multiple battleground states have it on their ballot to restore it in 2024 in that state. It's
Oh,
winning by a lot, like 70%. And the guy who claims to have taken it away is on that same piece of paper right next to it. Is this like not talked about very much? This is going to galvanize so
what?
many people and they're new voters that don't show up in polls.
Maybe you can make it clear for some of us who don't know what you're talking about. What right is it?
So abortion was a federal right before it was taken
Yeah.
away last year. And I mean,
Right.
I don't have a position on it. I'm just kind of think of it as a from a game theory standpoint and analyze motive of people. So I don't like to use that word very much, but like they lost a right.
Yeah.
They had it for 50 years and they lost it.
Sure. So it's a big deal. Of course it is. It's in fact the main talking point from Republicans. I'm sorry, from
Mhm.
Democrats. It's literally if you look at Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren, it's what they're leaning on to win. I mean, this is all they got really. Um,
Right.
I have a lot of Democrat friends, some of whom are in senior positions in government, and they are not thrilled or happy
Mhm.
about what's happened. It feels like Trump has a very strong position, and I think it's because he does. And abortion is the one thing that's really kind of there. And I think Trump, doesn't ask me for advice on this kind of stuff, but because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to abortion. But for abortion, I think what he said is very smart. He said that he would not make it a national ban.
Mhm.
So I think you're going to find him, like any good, smart person would do, I think would be advised to do is take your biggest weakness and somehow try to
Right.
neutralize it, which is something I've always done myself. One of my biggest weaknesses in business is uh, my past. I have a checkered past, as some might say.
Some might say.
And I've had, well, I mean, some don't say.
Sure. There you go.
I've been able to secure investments from many
Mhm.
billionaires who are, very well known. And, how was I able to do that? Well, by trying to turn that weakness into a strength.
Mhm.
And it's not easy, but at least you have to mitigate the weakness as much as you can. You may not be able to turn it into a full blown strength, but if you can mitigate it, take away the worst thing people can say about you, that's a good thing. Your life's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, that makes
And so, how do
sense.
you take that away?
That
Well, how do
makes
you take
sense.
it
I mean,
away? In
he
my
has to.
case,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. In my case, it's not easy. I can't reverse my conviction,
Mhm.
but I can cast doubt on it. I can claim that it was politically motivated, which many people feel is plausible. I can claim it was unfair, which many people seem to agree. I can remind people that I won, in fact, most of the case where I was actually found not guilty. So there are like things you can do to make it clear that, wait a second, you have to look into this. I can go on Tucker Carlson and have him say the same thing. So there are ways to cast a narrative. Lucky for me and unlucky for President Trump, I think President Trump has also cast doubt and suspicion on the entire legal system.
Mhm.
That now we're wondering whether uh, any conviction is fair at this point. If they can do it to him, how do you know they didn't do it to me? How do you know that I'm not 100% innocent? I was found innocent of 5 out of 8. I was found guilty out of 3 out of 8, but that's a small miracle considering what they've done to Trump. So, in terms of his strategy to handle this, I mean, my recommendation, which is worth absolutely nothing, uh, is to take it away from Biden by saying, and I think he's going to do this, by the way,
Mhm.
in the in the debates, he's going to say, I'm not trying to take your right to abortion away. I'm not the Supreme Court. They did that. And you know, if a nationwide abortion ban comes to my desk, I'm vetoing it.
I mean, he's got to
And
do that because in the past
I
he
mean,
has.
if you don't ban it, then the Catholics aren't gonna vote for you. That's the big thing.
But here's the
I
thing:
don't think
Can I-
so, because
when you have three states that
they've
are so close, it's a political foot gun to turn it into a states' rights issue.
yeah, I think you'd be crazy not to say that, we've had this thing for a long time. Like, why? I don't think Catholics are going to abandon it, just because, they've gotten a big win here, right? So,
Oh,
like,
for
to get
sure.
a nationwide ban would be like not just a big win, but be like the ultimate win. So I think
Mhm.
that, you know, the Catholics are happy with what they've gotten, and making it a state's issue is the right thing from a constitutional standpoint. From a practical standpoint,
Sure.
people don't like it, and I think, or some people don't like it. And I think that if you're smart and you're Trump, you basically say, why shouldn't it be a state's issue? If that's really against the will of the people, maybe we'd consider, a law that balances it correctly for our entire nation, which obviously is hard. There's some people that think you should be able to have an
Of
abortion
course. Yeah.
all the time. There's some people that say this is the time where you should be able to do it, etc. Again, I'm not a politician. I'm not a social scientist. This is not my field. My fields are very limited, but I do think, I want Trump to win, and I do think this is going to be the biggest card the Dems have. And
Mhm.
ultimately, if he plays his cards right and doesn't come out looking or sounding like a maniac, you know, the worst he can get blamed for is that Roe v. Wade happened because of him.
Sure.
But Roe v. Wade it wasn't unanimous, but it wasn't also like 5-4.
Sure.
Can
Well,
I
he
make a
just
couple
did
points?
speak. Yes, but
Yeah.
sure.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Condor. Go ahead. Finish your point.
Yeah, sure. So he just made one of his, True Social videos where he kind of gets up in front of his flags and talks. And he spoke to this group. I forget the name, but it starts with a D. But their main focus is a total ban nationally. And he said
Oh,
something.
yes. Yeah.
He said something to the effect of like, "Hey, your day will come. Don't worry, I'm fighting for you." Kind of a vague statement, but like he's not dismissing it.
I
Not
think
good, for. Go ahead.
so. I actually worked on the Stephen Levitt abortion paper when I was in college, so I know a little bit about this issue. And just one point, and then tactical. In terms of the litmus test of abortion, you have to remember that that ebbs and flows with what other things are going on. And what I mean by that is you have people that say, look, I'm pro choice. But am I going to stake my vote solely on pro choice when I have inflation, border, this, that? And that's a personal decision. They'll say, look, if you're giving me the 10 things that I want, yeah, I'll be pro choice. But if you're giving me all these things that I don't want to be pro choice, nah, it's not that important to me, particularly if you're a middle aged suburban mom. And to be honest, the abortion is not going to directly affect you. So I think there's that component. And then the second component, if I were Trump on a tactical basis, is there's a very prominent Yale constitutional lawyer who's a Democrat who hates Trump, who said he never voted for Trump, and he actually worked in the Clinton White House. And he's gone on record as saying that Roe v. Wade was misdecided if you read the Constitution, and that it should be states' rights. And if I were Trump's team, I would be posting that guy's talks on it in stereo everywhere I
That's
could.
right. Yeah. I mean, and that's how I feel about it. Uh, whether what I believe in, whatever, regardless of what I believe in, whether I think abortion's an abomination or I think it's a right, which I'll keep to myself. Um, but the answer might surprise you. Regardless of that, the idea as to whether it's a state's right is a really dispassionate issue, right? Like, this is a really technical legal issue. It's really not supposed to be this impassioned kind of like um, dramatic kind of thing. It's really even though it involves something passionate and dramatic, it's really just kind of this dry like analysis of federalism, right? Like it's not.
I share your perspective as well, and I don't have a position I want to share on the actual act of abortion, but it is passionate. I mean, it passed in Kentucky at some like 70%. I don't recall the actual number, but in very deep red states, allowing it and protecting it as a part of that state is extremely popular. In some
How? That's
states,
impossible. I don't believe
Same
that.
thing happened in Indiana.
yeah.
You're
And
telling
so,
me a
so yes,
Republican is pro-abortion?
I'm saying that there's enough people that do not vote that are not recognized in polls because they're not regular voters. They were galvanized in Kentucky, in Kansas, in Indiana, red states, very red states. And as a matter of fact, there's at least 3 swing states that will have it on their ballot in 2024, this year, right next to President Trump's name.
Yeah, I don't think you benefit in any way by doubling down with evangelicals and
Yeah.
doubling down with. But electioneering is a tough business, right?
The best
Um,
thing, yeah, the best thing that the Republican National Party can do is just not talk about it anymore. Say it's a state's issue.
Exactly.
I think that's
Stay
smart.
away from
Yeah.
the babies. Leave the
Yeah,
babies alone.
just there's no upside. Zero.
Exactly.
I mean, again, electioneering is a hard thing. Like we don't have the data necessarily. If it's a complicated calculation. I did it for Bitcoin and presented, why I think crypto is a major election issue. It's not going to win the election or lose the
Mhm.
election, but I made my pitch that it's going to play a role and it could help you win a state or two, possibly
Yep.
give you an easier win or a less contested win or turn something that's a clear loser to in play. And I had to give the math, and the math was that getting turnout for these like unlikely voters is worth more than getting, turnout for your likely voters. And here you have this like very passionate community, not millions of people
Mhm.
that are passionate about crypto. It's small, but they're there, they're single issue voters, and if you say one sentence, you got them. And for, that's worth its weight in gold versus this tug of war of, well, I'm leaning Republican, but on that day, I'm not sure I'm going to get up and go.
Yep.
That's the hard thing. We don't have 100% voter participation. And you need people to get up and go. And how do you get that to happen is a question. And if you showed me data that said, well, if you stand there and say abortion is an abomination, it needs to be banned, blah, 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 and that means that your average evangelical is going to go to the poll when they wouldn't have,
Mhm.
hey, and vice versa, you would galvanize a bunch of other people who would say, no, 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 this is really important to me. I'm going to go to the poll vote against you. It's not just a question of does it move the general feeling this way or that way. It's about turnout. Can it
Right.
really push you to
But
make your decision, make you
in order
angry?
to do that, then the Republicans would have to do the opposite of what I think Ryan is suggesting, where they kind of don't talk about it.
Yeah, I think the strategy might just be, again, without the data, it's hard to say, but strategy might just be to basically let the Supreme Court do their thing,
Yep.
which they're helping your evangelicals. They won. The fight's over.
Hmm.
And then kind of backpedal. And Trump's kind of been doing this. He's been saying like, I'm not going to ban it nationally, which is super smart, I think. But
Yep.
again, I don't have the data. If the data says like, I mean, to me, that evangelical people who are against abortion, to the extent they are, they've won this battle that has taken place, and states they can pressure their state governments to ban it, or they
Hmm.
can move to a state that's banned it.
You
And
can
you know,
pump. Sorry, Martin, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
I
I'm
was
done.
just going to say you can pump money into the states that want it, and you think it'll benefit you behind the scenes through PACs without even taking a position on the national level. I feel like you already won the battle. Why risk losing the war in terms of consternation? Because you don't need this issue, because you can win on the economy and all the other stuff that is pissing people off.
Yeah, but if you're confronted about it, you're going to be asked about it. You need a position, and that position can't be I demur, I defer, you know, I think you have to tackle it, and I think you could say the law of our land is the states decide. I didn't make that law.
That's exactly it. States'
By
rights.
the way,
Ask the governors.
yeah,
Ask the legislators. There.
lots of scholars.
Yeah, power
Lots of
to the
scholars.
states.
Yeah, lots of
fine.
scholars feel
And look,
that
by the way,
this is the right call.
Democrats can't have it both ways, which is, hey, we want to have high tax, we want to do it. If you don't like it, get the F out of California or whatever, some version of that. Well, it's the same with issues that they don't like. So if you really don't like it,
it's
that
fine
much,
being a
then you
states'
move.
rights issue, and I would prefer things to be up to the states more. But if it's going to cost you, first of all, the red wave back in the midterm and a general potentially coming up, was it worth it?
Yeah, nothing's worth the election. That's the way politicians think, right? Absolutely nothing is sacred to win.
One more
Win is
anecdote
win.
that I wanted to share before I hop off the horn, and thank you, was, take it for what they're worth. Prediction markets, they have Trump winning head to head, like popular, like 54 to 30 something. But if you go look at those battleground states where this is on the ballot, Biden's winning. And we don't elect presidents through a popularity contest. We do it through like electoral college. So I think there's a surprise coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think Trump would be wise to backpedal a little, and he has. And I think he got the W, right? Roe v. Wade's been overturned. He got what he wanted. He can't change the Supreme Court. He didn't know what they would do. They did what they did. Many legal scholars agree it was the right call from a very strict legal analysis, not a call of what people want or don't want. And listen, if it becomes the will of the people to elect a president that is going to change the law and pass a law that addresses directly abortion, and it passes by a majority, of the Senate and the House, and the president signs it, then the will of the people is the choice. I'm not going to sign an abortion ban, but I'm also not going to enshrine it because the Supreme Court said that. But if I heard from my voters that this is what we want an abortion law that's formal, decided, and explicit that supersedes Roe v. Wade, then write a bill, do it. Because they're worried that they write a bill to ban it. Well, write a bill to pass it, and that's what the Dems want to do. They don't have the support to do it. And that's the choice of the people. If the people tell their elected representatives, hey man, this is really important to me, go make this abortion bill happen because everyone should have this right, then the senators and the House, will push for it. They're not pushing for it because, they don't have the votes. And it's not a unanimous thing. Their criminal justice reform, at least when it was positioned the right way, became bipartisan and unanimous. Crypto became bipartisan and unanimous after some fighting. Very few things are that bipartisan and unanimous, but it does happen. The Patriot Act was bipartisan and unanimous, including its renewals. So you can get bipartisan stuff, and if there comes a day in America where it's bipartisan supported, it'll get passed. But right now is not that day, clearly. So I think he can kind of wiggle his way out of this and say, I'm not on the Supreme Court, and plenty of scholars say this is, correct by the law, and, if you become president, go ahead, pass an abortion bill, but I don't think you'll get it, and I'm not going to go for a ban, so why don't we just leave it as it is? And the law is a weird thing in America. This can get reversed again, right? A new Supreme Court 30 years from now can go reverse it a second time. So this whole thing is fucked, and I hope that for Trump, that this isn't enough to derail him. But I also think that I don't agree that he's losing in battleground states. It depends on the polls you look at. I think he is winning in battleground states, which is why the prediction markets are where they are. Because notice the prediction market is he going to win the election? Not is he going to get more votes or et cetera. I think, in fact, the vote one is almost certainly Biden. It's already Biden's running away with that one because of the California demographics and stuff like that.
I mean, they had Hillary winning on the polls against Trump, and she lost.
Yeah, it's impossible basically because of the blue coasts.
Yeah. Well, like back
You
in
know, that
2016, you had a lot of new voters that didn't really register in those polls, similar to, they were upset with the system. They didn't like Hillary. Just like now, when you have a galvanizing issue, which is creating the same thing. Like just this past week, Fox News had a poll among independents, and abortion is the second most um, important issue for them behind inflation, before the border even. So anyway,
yeah, no,
thanks for
it's a problem.
thanks for the chat. Appreciate it. Just wanted to come up and talk about something that people don't really talk about very much. So thank you.
Thanks.